Walking out, it's just a sea of shrubs. A lot of very slow going areas. Sometimes adventure doesn't just mean climbing the tallest mountain or walking the furthest distance. Sometimes it's more about walking the path less traveled, though in our case for this trip, there wasn't much of a path. Leaving the busy trails and making your own path means that you may even find yourself in your own little secluded neck of the woods. This was the first backpacking trip of the season, and we wanted to strike out on our own and test our gear. We started on the popular Bassi Falls trail, but we continued past and followed up the canyon. Google Maps did not give us a sense of how shrubby the area above the falls was, and we had to bushwhack more than expected. Alright, well, we've made it pretty far. Been a lot of bushwhacking, but I think currently the plan is to go up bushwhack one more time, get a little bit further, and I think there's some nice camp spots, so we may not make it all the way to our destination, the pool that we wanted to go to, but it's been a day, I will say, but we're learning. I'm hoping to get set up and have time to walk around and get some pictures of some of these really cool pools. Mosquitoes are quite thick. I think we hit it just on the first weekend when they're coming out. We're still finding time to kick back and relax since we got to camp so early. Well, we didn't quite make it all the way to the pool that we were aiming for because the bushwhacking just got too much. But I will say, where we did decide to actually land is amazing. And as you can see, there's excellent opportunities for all kinds of photography around the creek. So I'm gonna be walking around and looking into that. I've got to position myself so that my shadow is not in it, as you can see. But I do like the way that these rocks, it's smoothly going over them. And then if we look up, you can actually see this really cool dead, snag. And so I feel like there's a lot of potential there maybe for some compositions that use these rocks in the foreground that are submerged, and then also using kind of this big tree as a big leading line up. This photo didn't turn out how I wanted, as I think there were too many distractions in the frame, but I think this spot had potential. The river was too loud here for audio, so I'll just tell you that I really liked this single rock out in the middle of the river, and I figured if I could shoot vertical, I may be able to utilize the shadows on the different layers of the rapids to create contrast and visual interest. In areas as chaotic as this, you want to take several photos to find one that has the splash pattern you like. Alright, I don't know how well you can hear this because it's quite loud right here. But what I'm thinking about doing here is I'm using this sheeting water and then that tree, those trees, as kind of a subject kind of leading up into, it's not quite a leading line because it's actually going kind of parallel, but, or I guess perpendicular. But I'm hoping that sitting in this spot, I'll be able to shoot in some different directions and then maybe pick out some cool things. Well, let's see what happens.
Here in a high spot, looking out over the river, and deciding where I want to post up when the sun actually starts to rise. It's only still just blue hour. You can tell that right back there, just pretty blue, so it's going to block some of the sunlight. And so I feel that this whole ridge line, I think, is going to block the sunlight a little bit. Won't be getting the super duper early morning sunlight, but I have hope that as it kind of crests over that, we might get some really interesting raking sunlight over the landscape and all over the trees. Now here's a great example of making do with what you have, right? So no matter where I go, I cannot get that tree out of the shot, or if I move over one way or another, I end up getting another tree in the shot. And so what I've done is instead I'm taking it and I'm centering the tree in the very, very center of the mountain, not letting it cross over. I don't want it to cross over the edge. And there's actually kind of a layering where the tree is much darker and then the mountain behind it is kind of lighter and almost lit up by the sun in a different way. Kind of the light between them is lit up. Here I found a composition using this one taller tree as a focal point. It stood out from the background hill because of the disparity in lighting which gave the photo layers. I tried to compose the shot with each section of the sky, the hill, and the sunny trees taking up about a third of the shot. And a 3x1 crop really brought it together, I think.
If I walk out on this rock, I can actually shoot up this whole set of rapids, and I'm hoping with the dappled light of the trees that are, kind of blocking some of the sunlight and making these lines, I'm hoping it'll make it kind of contrasty and more interesting visually. There's this big rock right here, and I think that might be an interesting kind of foreground because there's water going around either side of it. And then way off in the distance, there's a couple of tall trees that might make kind of a nice final thing as your eye goes up the kind of photo. So let's see how this goes. I got it framed up here, and I want to keep it at about 1/20th of a second because I want the water to look like there's movement, but I also don't want it to just become a milky mess.
At that point, we got all packed up and hit the trail. Or should I say bushes.
This hike will go from being out on granite slabs, very easy walking, to off in that direction where we're going, it's going to become much more dense, and we're gonna have to wade through more shrubs again. It's a unique trip, I will say. A lot of variation in landscape, at least. I'll admit it, sometimes this route has some nice views.